Welcome to the Nebraskaland Bank Podcast.
I'm Ty.
I'm David.
I'm Danielle, and we're your hosts. In each episode, we'll sit down with local guests to highlight the incredible people and stories that make our community unique.
From finance to sports, community events to local businesses, we've got it all covered. Join us as we dive into the heart of our community.
This is the Nebraskaland Bank Podcast, always community-minded.
Every voice.
Every topic.
Every time.
So turn the volume up, settle in,
and let's talk Nebraskaland.
Welcome to a special edition of the Nebraskaland Bank Podcast. Danielle Remus is here. Ty Lucas is here. I'm David Fudge, and a guy who is very familiar with the studio, Marc Werkmeister, is here from Professional Financial Advisors. And we feel like this entire show is going to be asking for a friend. We normally finish the show with an asking for a friend segment. We're just going to call this the asking for a friend segment on something relatively new. It's been in the news a lot. It is the Trump accounts. And so there's a lot of questions out there about what they are, what they're used for, how they're structured, what are the ins and outs for it. So we're just going to dive right in and try and give you as much information in the time we have available today as possible on what these are and what they can be used for. And so, Mark, I'm just going to start with, from 65,000 feet, what is a Trump account?
Yeah, so the Trump accounts were brought into law last year. I think technically they're a 530A account. And that just means that it's a way to save for minors. So you can put money into an account as long as a child is under 18 and it grows tax deferred. When the child turns 18, the money then turns into an IRA. So the account goes from a Trump account to a traditional IRA. And from that point forward, the adult at that point, the minor you put it in for, has complete control over the account. There's a lot of little nuances with this account, so it has to be invested in low-cost index funds. So you can't just put it anywhere. It has to be in the United States stocks only. You can't invest in commodities or real estate or foreign stocks. It has to be in U.S. stocks. So it's pretty limited on the investment choices, but honestly, that's probably a good thing. You'll keep your fees low and do everything you want to do from a long-term growth standpoint. There are a lot of different rules and regulations that are still coming out on this, so not all of the feedback from the IRS is out, but we have a pretty good idea because they went live on July 4th. So I just read this morning that the Trump account app is the #1 downloaded app this morning because they literally just went live. So if you go to trumpaccounts.gov, that's how you start the process if you want to open one of these up.
It's one of the better websites I've seen in terms of its functionality and information. Maybe just real quick to talk about the philosophy of it. As Mark said, it was part of the big, beautiful bill, and it's just coming into action about a year later because it's taken them that long to get the platform built. It's really a platform, and I think the thing that I like about it is I think it's about, a lot of it's about teaching and people learning about investing and savings. I mean, there's a lot of things I don't like about them, but I would tell you that I in my opinion, one of the neat characteristics of it is that it gives families an opportunity to think about and talk about investing with people at a very young age, and I think that may be one of the neat aspects of it.
Yeah, they've relied on, at least the early go around here, you have to open the account through, it's a combination of BNY and Robinhood, so a lot of people are familiar with Robinhood. They really started the gamification of investing, if you will, like a really slick app, easy to see what you own, and that's the interface. They designed the interface that these Trump accounts are running on the app. So it's really designed, parents can get on and contribute the money and do everything, but then the kids can actually get access and watch the account grow and things like that as well, too, even though they can't touch it till they're 18. So from an education standpoint, Ty is right, and then the way they built it, it's pretty slick.
So if I'm coming into you, or if Danielle's coming into you, I don't have young kids anymore, but if Danielle's coming into you and says, what can I use these, what can these be used for, what can't these be used for?
You can put it up to $5,000 combined. It doesn't matter who puts it in, Danielle, parents, grandparents, employer, $5,000. And once the kid turns 18, it's a traditional IRA. So it's just like you own a traditional IRA at that point. So traditional IRA, you can take it out for first-time home purchase. You can take it out for college education expense. You can leave it in there till you're 60 and just use it for retirement. All of those things, you're going to have to pay some tax on the earnings, but there's no penalties. So it's not a true tax-free savings vehicle like you might think of, like a 529 plan, where you put money in, you take it out, and all the money's tax-free as long as you use it for college. This account, you can use it for college, but you still got to pay tax on the growth. So it's a little bit different, but it's also more broad. 529 you can't take out for first-time home purchase. You can't keep it till you're 60 for retirement. So it's a little bit more broad in what you can use it, but it still has some strings attached, especially till you're 18. I think the one thing people need to know, you asked me what it could do, the one thing it can't do is there's really no flexibility prior to 18. So you can't take the money out. Other than rolling the money to a different provider, you really can't do anything with it until they're 18. And then once they're 18, like a 529 I mentioned, you name the beneficiary, so you still control the money. So if that kid doesn't go to college, you can decide what you want to do with it. These Trump accounts, when they're 18, the minor gets the money, so you lose all control at that point.
But $5,000 per year?
$5,000 per year per child. That's the most you can put in. But like I said, it's an aggregate number. So if you have an employer that wants to put in, or you have a grandma who wants to put in, it's not $5,000 per person making the donation, which like a 529, that's how it is. It's $5,000 per child.
There's a little bit of a quirky philanthropic aspect to this that's something I've never seen in my career. First of all, if a child is born from 2025 to 2028, meaning our young children today, you can get a $1,000 tax credit for the account. Is that correct?
So basically the government will put in
the first $1,000 kind of concept.
Yep.
And then you have Michael Dell, and you have SpaceX's CEO, and you have others who are looking at philanthropic donations of like a share of stock of SpaceX. Now, I keep reading about these donations, and it looks like they're going to target certain census tracts or geographies or that. I think the Treasury is still working on how you handle philanthropy, but there is a little energy on some philanthropy on this, and I have no idea. In my mind, it's hard to imagine that a 3-year-old in North Platte, Nebraska is going to end up with a share of SpaceX, but I don't know. I don't know. It's the Wild West on that, Mark.
Yeah, they kind of have all these rules for the average people, and then they're just kind of waiving these rules for all the people that want to do the philanthropic type of donations. Like the Dell, that's the big one, the Michael Dell. It's $250, I think, is what they're putting in, but you have to live in a certain zip code, and your income has to be under $150,000, and nobody really knows yet how that money gets in the account or what that's going to look like. So, but the momentum is real. I mean, there's more and more companies coming out every single day saying they're going to contribute. Because one of the neat things about these accounts that doesn't exist with the others is the employer side. So employers can put up to $2,500 into one employee's kids' accounts or combination of kids. If they have 8 kids, you got to split it 8 ways. But they can deduct it. So the employers can deduct that from their bottom line. Now it takes the basis down on the kid's account. So when he gets to 18, he's going to have to pay tax on that. But still, from an employer standpoint, that's a pretty good benefit to be able to contribute to these accounts, take the deduction, and of course the employees would be grateful as well. And the one place we've seen it where we would recommend it even more so is that if you're a self-employed individual, and a lot of our self-employed clients have S-corps set up, so they, even though they're the employee, they're set up as an S-corp, so they pay themselves a salary. In that scenario, you could put money into your own kids' accounts, take the $2,500 deduction, and then it still grows just like it would otherwise. So there's some little ways around some of this from employer side, but we're starting to see all kinds of companies. If you go to the website, they list some of the big ones.
Yeah.
They're planning on putting in for all of their employees' kids.
Yeah, I'm curious. There's been a little bit of talk. This is all early stage with employers about will employers start giving people some election, like for example, if we're matching your 401k or you've earned a year-end or quarterly bonus, maybe giving people some discretion on how to get that. But I think all those logistics are still in the early stages. Also, since I've got the Nebraskaland Bank hat on here today, I want to make sure people know that these accounts are subject to risk, and I'd like Mark to talk about that. I mean, these are not FDIC insured products; they're not bank products, and stock market can go up or down, and so I believe it's great for people to understand these investment vehicles and learn about them and weave them into their financial plan, but they don't go without risk of principal, right, Mark?
Yeah, so it's like I said earlier, it's very limited on what you can invest in. So you have to be in a diversified U.S. index fund of some kind. So think of the S&P 500 index fund, which if you're investing for a 5-year-old, that's a good investment, and it's low cost, it's diversified, it's risky in the short run for sure, but in the long run, you're kind of taking a bet on the U.S. economy. But if you're thinking about putting in for a 17 or 18-year-old who's going to turn around and take the money out, I mean, you could easily see, we've seen 30, 40, 50% drops in these funds before. And so it's definitely not a short-term investment vehicle. So, but the risk is really, because they limited it to the U.S., it's really you're betting on the U.S. economy, however you decide to do this. And the reason they did that was to keep the fees down. I mean, I'm sure there's other reasons too, but really it keeps your average index fund is going to be like 2 basis points, so 0.02% a year. Be diversified, let it grow, but it's really a long-term investment. So I think people need to be careful if they're putting money in for older kids in order to get benefit in the near future.
As you talked about through some of this stuff, one of the things that occurs to me is not all 18-year-olds are ready to manage wealth or manage basically. So a lot of them live paycheck to paycheck. They're not really smart with their money. What kind of guardrails are there so a kid just doesn't go, well, I'm just going to go buy a new car with this? Or are there any?
As of now, I don't know that there are any guardrails, because it becomes a traditional IRA when they are 18.
So they can liquidate it for any reason. Now there's penalties.
There's a penalty of 10%, plus you got to pay tax on the gains. So they won't net the entire thing if they take it out to buy a new car. But as it reads right now, and I expect these to evolve a lot as the years go on, but as it reads right now, once they're 18, I mean, you lose all control. And that's the number one reason I'd say we haven't had even more interest than we've had so far, is people generally get a little bit nervous about giving up control at 18 to an 18-year-old like that. And especially where they have access. The good side is they're educated. They can see their account grow. They can learn about investment. The offshoot to that is they know at 18 how much is in that account. And they know exactly how to access it because of the app and the way it's set up.
The platform is pretty sophisticated in ways of getting money into these accounts. I mean, even like use of a debit card, Venmo, that type of thing. Where I'm imagining these are going to go first stage, I think families that want to teach their kids about investing will use these as a complement, as kind of an extra to good financial planning. I mean, I don't necessarily think I'm going to see people who are working on college planning and all that say, oh, I'm all in with the Trump accounts and that's going to be my vehicle. I think they're going to do it on top of it with little bits of discretionary money and use it as a teaching tool and a learning tool, and that the platform is definitely designed to create connection and visibility with young people, and I think that's the neat thing about it. So, I'm imagining imagine the couple that has young children that's very well planned, planning for college education, all that. I can imagine, well, why not open one of these and put a little bit of money into it and do that as a family and learn together, and I think that'll be good for learning.
Yeah, it's definitely not a substitute for the 529 plans if college is your number one goal. I mean, that's not as advantageous because of the tax setup. But is it better than a UTMA? Possibly. Like I said, folks that want to get money in a Roth and their kids aren't really old enough to justify working at that age, yeah, works for that. So I agree with Ty. I mean, it's going to be an add-on. I don't think it's going to be the first place that families are going to go to save for their kids. I still think you're going to see the savings accounts, the CDs, the college accounts, even probably some UTMAs. I could see more grandparents maybe getting on board and doing this if the parents aren't already doing something. And then the employer side, I really think there's going to be some big momentum on the employer side to start offering these as well. Because the other thing I didn't mention, but the way it's set up, if you have a cafeteria plan at work, if you're familiar with the cafeteria plan, it's a tax deduction going in. And then if you use it for glasses, dental, any health costs, it comes out tax-free to help supplement your health bills. The way it's set up, you can put into a cafeteria plan and use that cafeteria plan money to put into a Trump account. So it's kind of a way for employees to get that deduction going in if they do it through a cafeteria plan payroll deduction. So all these things are kind of like complicated how you can set it up, but it's all there. So I think through payroll deductions, we could see it grow that way too.
How much tinkering? I mean, you've already mentioned that we're seeing some evolution and some momentum. I mean, how much tinkering do you think they'll do with this thing over the course of the next 18 months or so as they kind of dial in some of this?
I know that it's still out there to allow people to open accounts at new firms. Like I said, right now you're pretty much limited to Robinhood and BNY, who set the platform up, but I expect them to expand that. I think they're probably at some point going to have to think about an investment option that's not just stock market. I mean, you think about putting in for a 2-year-old now, 18 years from now, and their projections are showing you could have $200,000, right?
Right.
So if you have $200,000 and the kid's going to need the money next year for college, do you really want it all in an index fund? Probably not. So there's some of those things that I think they might evolve over time, and the name Trump's on it, so there's probably going to be some political stuff that wants to mess around with them, but. I think that's the biggest issue looking forward is that money management piece, allowing it to be a little bit more flexible to manage the risk.
I've been curious about, in the first week or two of the opening of these, how politicized it would become. And it's interesting, at this point, it doesn't seem overly politicized, except maybe on some of the philanthropic wave. But I think I heard a guy talking about, well, when you think about Roth IRAs today, nobody knows who Roth is. Nobody thinks
Right.
of who Roth is. Now, of course, Roth wasn't president of the United States either.
Right.
But it's interesting, will the term Trump accounts become its own term, detach itself a bit, and not be politicized, or will these accounts be politicized over time? I have no idea.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting topic.
Will you not use them if you're from the other
Right.
side of the political aisle?
Yeah, and I think that's going to be interesting to see, how that evolves over time.
Yeah. Marc Werkmeister, our guest today, professional financial advisors, Danielle, Ty, David here, talking Trump accounts, trying to figure out, as you look at the grand scheme of things here, I mean, you've mentioned already, you think this is a layer. Do you think this is a first layer? What layer do you think this is on at this point, Mark? If I'm sitting at home with a 2-year-old listening to this, does it depend on what my goals are for my child? Does that figure into what layer this is?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think first of all, that's the first question, because there's some people that they want to save for college. That's what the money's for. And if you know that's what the money's for, a 529 is still going to be your best first option.
And a 529, for people that aren't familiar with that, is would be like the Nebraska Educational NEST and NEST accounts.
Yep, the NEST accounts. And so the advantage of those is you get a state tax deduction when you put it in, but it grows tax-free forever. The parent or grandparent, whoever opens the account, they're still the owner. So even if the kid turns 18, you don't have to give them money if you don't want to. If you can switch beneficiaries, so if you have a child that doesn't go to college, but your next child does, you can switch it down to them. So from a college standpoint, they're far more flexible, and then better tax benefits. So if it's truly college, 100%, that's what you want to do, then you're still better off with the 529. Then the next question is, are you okay giving up control? And if the question is no, then these are not an option. So you really got to answer those two questions first. No, I don't want it to be just for college, and yes, I'm okay giving up control. So for those people, absolutely, it's a good option, because they're going to have that ability to, have a long-term retirement account starting, at the age of 1 year old. And then, of course, the people that have the kids born between 25 and 28, then there's a possibility of the $1,000 just free money going in as well, and that's kind of a no-brainer if you have somebody
Sure.
in that age group.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. So, you know how sometimes you'll go to the doctor and they'll present options to you and you're just like, just tell me what to do. Like, what would you do if this were your... So, Mark, just tell me what to do. Like, what would you recommend, or what would you do for your own family when it comes to kind of setting up your savings portfolio for your child?
So the way I do it is when my kids are young, I save into 529s for them, because the real advantage of those is the compound tax-free growth over time.
And do you max that out?
No, I don't. So the max for a 529 is the gifting limit. So I could technically do $19,000 each year into a 529 for each of my 4 kids. So no, I don't max it out. But I overfund them early, and then I let them grow. Because when they're 16, the tax advantages start to go away. 2 years of tax-free growth isn't as big a deal as 18 years, right? So I front load it. I do college stuff early. That way there's more time for tax-free growth. And then once they reach, around 10, I start just putting it in a regular brokerage account. There's no tax benefits, but I control it. I'll give it to them when I want to give it to them. And then as soon as they're able to actually work a legitimate job, then I'll start giving them money for a Roth IRA. That's kind of my plan. Where these accounts change things is if there's extra money, or on the employer side, I will probably start putting some into these accounts, like Ty said, on top of. I'm not going to really replace anything, but my 10-year-old, she's mowing the grass right now. That doesn't count as a job for a Roth IRA. But if I want to take her mowing money and put it in a Trump account that I can later convert to a Roth, yeah, I might do that.
But that would the actual conversion would be her decision at the point where she's 18, correct?
It'd be her dad's decision that she would be instructed to follow. But yes, she would not have to.
Right.
She would not have to do that.
You should also think of the value of that extra tool or that extra account. Let's say that my child's at age 0 to 10, and I'm at a point in my life where I can put a decent amount of money in that. Maybe I have $50,000 or $100,000 saved up when they're 13, 14, or 15. Are they mature enough to know? And when are they mature enough to know and be part of it and be part of managing it and all that? And so having tools to bring young people into things and coaching up the maturity to have the responsibility to do it with them, I think is something that all families are looking for tools in, because helping them learn is still one of the most important things. And I think what's fun about this account is just one more tool that you can use with helping that child become a responsible adult, and it just comes so much easier for some kids than it does for either. Some are very naturally financial acumen, and some of them mature at a later pace, and so having that flexibility. And Mark, I've got a question that complements Danielle's. If I was a grandparent today, and hopefully I'm a grandparent someday, and I have some young grandkids, and I'm worried about the Social Security system, and I have a little extra money either in a lump sum or on a yearly basis, if I wanted to do something for my grandkids because I think Social Security is at risk in the future, what kind of strategies do people like that do?
Yeah, so the number one question is control. Do you want to give up control? And if you're okay giving up control, then these new Trump accounts, or if they're old enough to contribute to a Roth and have earned income, are probably really good ways to do that. What they do now, or what they've done in the past, is we've just opened up a brokerage account for them. So we put the kid as beneficiary on an account. They invest it. We're tax efficient. We use ETFs. We use low-cost index funds, all those same things. So their tax liability isn't really high year in, year out. There's a little bit, but not much. And then at that point, whenever the grandparents are ready to give the kids the money, they simply gift the shares. So they gift the shares of their ETF or their stock, whatever it is. That way there's no tax. Same principle. The kid is young, probably is not having a lot of income. If they want to sell out of the funds, there's not going to be a lot of capital gains to pay. But if they just want to keep it going, they can. So that's what we're doing now. For grandparents that are more on the, I don't want to say for college, because a lot of grandparents, they think their kids have the college taken care of. They want to give the grandkids money for a car or a house or long term. And so this would be a good complement to that brokerage account. It kind of depends on where the grandparents are in life too. If you're in your 70s and you got some really young grandkids, you're probably not worried about the control factor. You're probably willing to give it to them, and when they're 18, they get it. Other ones want to make sure it's still under their control and they can gift it to them when they're ready. But anything that can get into a Roth IRA long term, because if you think about where tax rates are, we're in a pretty low tax environment historically from an income tax standpoint. And anytime taxes go up from here forward, your 401ks, your IRAs, all of that is going to lose value day one because that's all tax deferred. So the Roth IRA is really immune from any tax hikes in the future. So anything like this that has tax-free growth potential is a good option.
Control seems to be a word we have heard a lot. I mean, to me, this really just boils down to that. Are you really okay with just handing an 18-year-old whatever that count value is on their 18th birthday?
Yep.
That to me, that's what this boils down to. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, and it's if you're layering it in with other things, like, I have no intention of putting $5,000 a year into every one of my kids' Trump accounts every single year. Like, I don't think it's important to max these out unless you are already saving a ton for your kids. I mean, if you're somebody that has a lot of discretionary income and you're already doing it, yeah, absolutely. But most people aren't in that position where they're trying to save that much every single year.
Yeah.
So even if you put in a little bit and help them learn over time, it can still have a huge long-term value.
Interesting. Anything else we need to touch on here? I mean, this is so new. There's a lot of information out there. Where are the best sources of information, in your opinion, besides you, if you've got a relationship with one of your clients?
So I would start with just the Trump website, the trumpaccounts.gov.
Okay.
And now there's an app of it. We mentioned that earlier. You can download. That'll tell you a lot of how it works. You can go right on there and open one up. It takes a couple days to process the initial, because you have to file an IRS form in order to set one of these accounts up. So you either get the form, you mail it in, or you file it, or you go to the app and it basically walks it through for you and you get that done. Once they approve the IRS form, then you can actually open the account and get it going. So that's kind of how you would do it. But I think I would start there for just the nuts and bolts of how they work. If you're looking for more advice, should I do this? Then yeah, I think you lean on your financial advisors in your life and see how it all fits in. It's pretty easy to run projections on some of these things. If you want to say, what if I do $200, or $50 a month? What's it going to look like someday? Like, we can give you a pretty good idea of what that projects to, and just compare the other options. Danielle, probably don't know, UTMA, 529, Trump accounts, all these options. You don't really know all the pros and cons, so we can walk you through those.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Maybe in conclusion here, just in case we have a listener that hasn't heard Marc on our story before, hasn't met with anyone at PFA, Marc, do you want to go through just a little bit of a summary of your business and the types of services you guys offer and the type of clients you're working with?
Yeah, so we're financial advisors. So we are a registered investment advisor, and that just means that we charge fees for our advice. So most of that falls into either investment management or financial planning, things like Trump accounts. Really, I take the advisor title, literally. So if you have questions on, should I buy a rental property? Should I do a Trump account? Should I do a 529? What should I do for retirement? What about life insurance? All those things. We're here to give advice, and that's how our business is set up. We primarily work with businesses, 401k plans, and then individuals looking to save or plan for retirement, and then things like this as well. It's going to be interesting how the Trump accounts shake out in the long term, because as of right now, we can't open them, but we can obviously advise you on them and tell you what we would do. But you still have to go through the Trump platform to open the account.
Gotcha. Good information. All right. Anything else we need to touch on before we wrap up here today?
No, we were probably due to do a hardcore finance topic day versus just some of the fun stuff in the community. So I really hope we haven't put everybody to sleep today. But no, I think it's a great topic.
Yeah, and
really
as always, all these, as Ty mentioned earlier, every one of these things comes with risks. So make sure you understand what you're getting into before you do it. If you don't understand it, make sure you talk with your financial advisor and get the best advice you can. I think that's probably a good way to close it.
Thanks for joining us, Marc.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, well, that wraps up our episode. We hope you gained some valuable insights on Trump accounts and saving for your children. Our compliance guy, Jim, said, I need to remind you, Nebraskaland Bank maintains a referral relationship with professional financial advisors. The investment products offered by PFA are not insured by the FDIC, are not deposits or other obligations of the bank, and are not guaranteed by the bank, and are not subject to investment risks, including possible loss of the principal invested. Also, this material is not intended to provide and should not be relied on for tax, legal, accounting, or investment advice. You should consult your own tax, legal, accounting, and investments advisors. There, we made Jim happy. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit subscribe and share it with your friends. Don't hesitate to reach out to us with comments, feedback, or questions by visiting our website, nebraskalandbank.com/podcast. Member FDIC.